Well, hello, you campers. Lore Master's already here. Awesome. Thank you for waiting. Sorry, I was a little bit late. So, we just got to go through the kings and look at them in terms of archetypal development. So, we learned a bit about the King of Hearts last time and emotional development. So, the King of Clubs. So, I was pondering this earlier as I was taking a walk, and I thought, gosh, I posted a couple things yesterday about this very principle, so it must be in the air. Um, thank you, honey. Knowledge, knowing, subjective knowing. That's kind of always where I come to with the King of Clubs and its higher frequency, is to be really clear about your own subjective knowing and how we let other people and forces name our experience without naming it ourselves. I mean, it's okay to take in all kinds of information, but to forget that you are the primary namer of your experience, that it is your sovereign right, privilege, duty, responsibility. Exalted Mercury, hello, good to see you here. Is to renege on our function as humans. And get this, there's such a nexus happening around this. Not only is it a really good friend's birthday of mine today, who's the King of Clubs, but I was, oh my God, I don't want to, it was about the royal family. So I was listening to an interview show. If any of you know Gene Decode, he totally rocks. And this person, he didn't know anything about this, but this person called in and had been doing a study about some various birthdays, and they found a nexus around the 9 of diamonds. I'm just going to throw this in there with American leaders and some other events, also the Queen Mother, and May 19th being a wedding anniversary, birthdays, all kinds of things. And I had done a study quite a while ago that the royals know about this card system, and they choose clubs. And if they can get the King of Clubs May 19th, they'll take it, because it represents consciousness. And if you can dominate the consciousness of a collective, you control them completely. So anyway, let's look at the descending hand of the King of Clubs and kind of go, let's go to the dark side first, and then really personalize it. So what is the moon card in the descending hand of the King of Clubs? It is the 2 of Clubs. Now, the one thing Robert Camp says about the 2 of Clubs is that it represents fear. So we know it's a lot of things. When I was trying to break that down one time, I was thinking, okay, its karma card is the Ace of Spades. So that kind of represents the mystery or the unknown, what's beyond the veil. The 2 of Clubs is the back and forth that we have in our heads about what we don't know, about the mystery, about ourselves as individuals, Ace of Spades. And then I think that King of Clubs, if we are relying on that kind of back and forth in our heads, and there's fear there, and feel free, anybody, to jump in, because I'm totally riffing. If you're the realm of knowing, how can I know? What sources do I trust? How do I know something's true? How much is that fueled by emotion? If it's fueled by fear, you are totally controllable. If it's fueled by fear, you're going to be that stereotypical King of Clubs, arrogant, condescending, and your attitude is going to be like, if someone disagrees with you, you'll just be like, oh my God, it's so obvious. It's like so obvious what the truth is. Like, why aren't they getting it? And this, the need to persuade. This is something that really has been working on my consciousness too, is when we feel the need to raise the alarm and convince somebody of something, it's fueled by fear. Anytime you're trying to persuade and there's this passionate emotion behind persuasion, There's fear there. And I think that is so important to think about. Grumpy, so nice to see you. Why do we use the spiritual spread for this description? Are you saying, why don't we use the spiritual spread? We'll get there. I want to look at the descending spread to sort of understand the anatomy of the way thinking develops in the world, the way knowing develops in the world. But we will go to the spiritual spread for sure, because, we'll look at how it occupies Saturn, Jupiter. Yeah, that Jupiter-Saturn conjunction is so powerful, and that's truth and integrity, I think, because of the opposing forces of Saturn and Jupiter working within the individual, being your own fact checker, being your own inspiration. You know, if you're only going to lean towards the side of skepticism with Saturn and the restricting, you're never going to learn. Jupiter is open, but we have to have both. So that's a huge insight I've never had before. Grumpy, thanks for bringing that in. Okay, so then looking at the descending hand, I think there's a possibility, and there can be a positive side to this, but I've always thought of the King of Clubs as being pretty balanced in the hemispheres of their brain, but I think balance can, in a lower vibration, turn into polarity. And so it's black and white thinking. And I think that's also what the Two of Clubs kind of represents. So if we're talking about archetypal development of the mind, I think that's very normal and typical in our development, especially as children. We need absolutes to begin building the foundation. And then, just like in music, you have to learn all the rudiments and the chords and all that structure before you can go off into jazz. You have to learn the letters before you begin writing poetry. And so I think that's part of the development. And then the integration begins to occur. And the entire hand of the King of Clubs, and there's only a handful of cards that do this, their entire hand underneath are all spades. So I think it's very common for them to be old souls, and to work towards integration of the right and left brain and the resolving of paradox and that kind of thing. Your mic is picking up a lot of background noise and scraping sounds.
Sorry.
Stuart's making bread. Honey, can you, seriously, that scraping is just like...
I know.
Jeannie's here. So we will probably be interviewing Jeannie and her collection of 5 of Diamonds friends she's recently acquired next Tuesday. And she and I will decide on the time. I'm trying to get consistent around 1 o'clock, but anyway, so talking about the King of Clubs as the archetypal, the Uranus, the archetypal model of knowledge and information. And I think I just have to say, in the descending spread, I'm going to call this the descending mundane spread, to have it placed at Uranus is it feels really destabilizing. I mean, a little Uranus energy goes a long way, right? Let's be a little quirky. Let's be a little unexpected. But it doesn't feel very grounded. So I don't know. It's just an interesting thing to think about. So let's talk about the ascending hand. And Jeannie, if you have anything to say, if anybody has anything to say about knowledge, the development of our minds, and looking at the descending hand, there's a lot about emotional security, financial security, values security, and they're all even cards. And I just think that says something. It's like the building blocks. But maybe we need to look at the ascending hand to understand nuance. It's Uranus for the 5 of diamonds. The Uranus card. Yes. And it's Uranus. I always think that's so interesting when it's like the Neptune card for the Jack of Diamonds is the Queen of Hearts, which is Neptune. It's just like this really intense energy around illusion and addiction. And that's the United States. Hello. But anyway, so I was talking about nuance. So, and it sits Uranus with all the Uranian energy of our spread. I know. So, yeah, maybe a good question to ask the 5 of diamonds about that King of clubs is how do you ground your knowing, your learning, the whole realm of knowledge and information? Because, I mean, it seems to me with all that, your whole descending hand in Uranus, you could just kind of go off and get really ungrounded. So I don't know. Grumpy says, I would like to see the relationship card of the planet Venus for this king. Oh, that's a really good idea. Relationships need to be based in emotional security. That would be the 4 of hearts. Is that what you're referring to, Grumpy? After all, we know each other through relationships. That's a really good point. We develop our most important knowing through relationship. That's very profound, Grumpy. So the 4 of hearts, it's about trust. It's about safety. It's about feeling like you are enough. And we know that the human brain is, hi Sharon, the human brain is such that if you don't feel safe, the information centers close down. You can't receive new information if you're afraid. So that's just huge. I think we're dealing on this planet. We can see from the cards, we are dealing primarily in our learning with overcoming fear. It can also be about building emotional walls. Yes. It's the box effect of the 4s. Oh my gosh. So King of Clubs have a tendency to put people in boxes and predict and expect them to behave in certain ways based on these boxes. And the boxes can be pretty rigid. And they can also be like 6s in the Enneagram where you're in or you're out. You're in or you're out. I totally got on the outs with God. She was a very dear friend for a very, very long time. And then when I didn't fit into her agenda, and it was just literally a plan for the day, it just went belly up. And I was telling her, you're the poster child for inner child needs and validating your own needs. And I'm just not in a place where I can go do that thing with you. And I was on the outs because of that. It was just like so bizarre. But looking at this makes it make a lot more sense. Cosmic Sunflower, 2 of Spades. Nice to see you. Did you change your little logo? It used to be kind of more gray. Okay, I need to back up and make sure I've read all the comments. I would like to get a relationship. It's where the 5 of diamonds really needs grounding because the Uranus energy gives us an overextended nervous system. Jeannie, I love that you brought that in there. The crossover between, and does Uranus represent the nervous system? Because you guys definitely have an over-excised nervous system. Yes, you have the hardest time grounding. So I think we're on to something with this Uranus intersection of the King of Clubs and the need for grounding. It can't just be all out there, all over the place, super ADHD. I don't know any King of Clubs who are ADHD, although I'm sure that that's pretty common. Okay, I'm caught up with comments. It makes sense after all. It's the end of the card. Oh wait, Jeannie says, and they have 2 4s. Technically 3 if you count the spiritual spread. So yeah, there is a nexus of 4s with this hand, just like there's a nexus of 10s in the Jupiter line, which kind of makes sense for Jupiter, right? So a nexus of 4s would be, are you going to take kind of a lesser kind of grounding through boxed in thinking, or what is your grounding? How are you going to ground? Let's talk about that. How can you ground? Where is the grounding? What planet or card in the hand of the King of Clubs would answer the question, what is the most effective grounding? Now, for me, I think it might be the Moon card, because I've observed when I feel really ungrounded and sort of on the verge of dissociating, if I tune into my own experience, and I think of the Moon as internal, if I tune into my own experience, which is also the 5 of spades as my ascending moon card, into my senses, my humanness, which is really the 5 of spades, and I track my experience in real time and I become deeply present, which is also the 5 of spades. So what do you think of that? And how would the King of Clubs be instructed to ground? Through the 2 of Clubs, to have a kind conversation with yourself and deal with your fear. And the ascending moon, the Jack of Diamonds, would be to ground yourself in a sense of what's important to you, but to be flexible in that sense of value, to lighten up, just lighten up about everything. And man, in the realm of knowing, we could say in this country right now, but you watch any movie throughout the last 50 years and they're like, yeah, the state of the world right now. Can you believe it? It's like, it's just planet Earth. Okay. But in our attempt to know, if we don't infuse humor and lightness, we lose it. We just totally lose it. It shatters everything into perspective. So, guess we all have ADHD to some extent. Oh, I know some people that don't. They seriously don't. They have an executive function and they get shit done and their lives are organized and most of them make a lot of money. Okay. It's under the suit. The spades. A grumpy. I think that's what you're referring to. That is also the fact that we have the 7 of clubs moon position. Okay, so we're talking about moon now. And moon as a counterbalance, moon as a grounding, moon as a way to come back to yourself. Just go out a little bit and come back, like the moon card, the Mercury card. They're your flank that can help you balance, I think, if you really make use of the 2 cards on either side. So when you're trying to learn something, two of clubs can also be, talk to somebody about it. It can also be overcome your fear. And anyway, I'll just be repeating myself. It also makes us flexible in relationships. Yes, it does. And I think I'm a little too far away from what you're talking about to make sure that I'm tracking. I know a lot of King of Clubs who are overly tired because of dreams during the night. That's very interesting. Does anybody else want to weigh in on that? The 2 of Spades moon card to the King of Clubs deeply supports them. I think you're saying the 2 of Clubs moon card, because their soul card is the 2 of Spades. Deeply supports them in that they find friends to get energy out through conversations. Yeah, I think that's really true, because that 2 of Clubs that is their soul card is also their Jupiter card. So they really, really expand through true, deep friendship. And I think that's another point very well taken, that we really develop our knowing through the deepest, most intimate, trusting friendships. Building a foundation for self. I would really, really emphasize this. And if I were to rewrite the King of Clubs report, I would say, building a foundation for the self is absolutely necessary for whatever you're going to do in trying to achieve balance and integration of your hemispheres. Because those all the twos and fours, it's very 2 and 4 and 6 and 8 heavy. Not as many eights, although 8 is a karma card, isn't it? And they definitely have power issues, power and control. Okay, so where would it come from? And they're great writers. Writing helps them ground. Yeah, that's a really good point. I love this card. It's one of my favorite cards, especially the Taurus May 19th birthday. Great people, life, wisdom. They love to share, but they are very averse to risk, especially work and money. Oh, that's really interesting. Yeah, they may make conservative decisions, and then that makes them more successful. The May 19th one that I know is that one I was referring to before. She really got good at making sort of outlandish, out there, unconventional, like nudist camp type decisions. I'm going to go live with naked people in Arizona for a year. Turns out she loved it. They do everything in very unique ways. Yeah, that's true. Uranus is all about authenticity. Oh, good catch. Good catch. That's another key to developing your mind and your knowing and your ability to think. It's authenticity. It all comes back to the self. And we tend to, this planet is like, send your energy out. And I really think we need to be doing more of this. And before we go out, tapping into creative writing that stems from their experience in relation to the other, I meant Two of Clubs, the conversation card. I totally don't have my glasses on. They have to ground in that they have to sit with self and decide which are their thoughts and what are their channeling. Much of their spread is in the Neptune energy. Right, right. And their Pluto card is the card of illusions. Okay. So the Queen of Hearts, 10 of Spades. The highest interpretation of that is bliss and tireless devotion, having a deep, deep spiritual development. And in my Substack article, so I'm more free to go into my Jesus faith and all that kind of stuff. I don't consider myself a Christian per se, but I'm really tight with Jesus. And I just, if you want to go find my Substack and subscribe to it or even just follow it, oh, that'd be so great. I'll see if I can find a link, but Substack, look for my name and Let Yourself Be. I think, yeah, Paula at Let Yourself Be or something like that. Anyway, the Substack that I published was about, it's this Jesus card that I'm writing a deck of Jesus cards. So it pulls in wisdom from all over the place, but is kind of grounded in like Jesus, sayings, teachings and stuff. And he talks about a valid witness. And he said, if I testify about myself, I am not a valid witness. In other words, for you to know for sure, who do you need to testify about me to believe me? And he goes straight to God, which is so cool. So there's a Buddhist Lojong saying that says, of the two witnesses, hold to the former. Buddhism gave me sanity in a way that Christianity never did. And now I'm putting it all together. But of the two witnesses, hold to the former. That means trust yourself primarily, come back to the self. And as a 9, I'm always like, if someone says something, I can get really, So coming back to the self, but it's like Jesus inserts this other thing and says, of the 3 witnesses, prioritize them this way. God knows you completely. Isn't that nice that somebody does? Then you've got your own internal subjective experience of yourself, which is more valid than anyone outside of you. So I just wanted to bring that in. I just think that's really important when we're talking about how do we know. Okay, and I'm sorry I'm not tracking the conversation. This is really sparking a lot, probably because it's a King of Clubs day. They transform into the 3 of Hearts. A lot goes into alchemizing what the inner child experienced. Oh, that's good. Exalted Mercury. They come from the Jupiter-Saturn position, which can mean that their growth, either spiritually or professionally, was limited in a past life. Oh, that's a great interpretation. And I think that they have power issues too, like that Eight of Spades. That may be their karma. They may have been like a general or something like that. And they have to work with, you don't get to control everybody. They sure think they're supposed to be able to, some of them. Some of them. Are any of you among us? So I know who I'm insulting. And any club has this persona, you know, and anywhere there's a club in your hand, you have this archetype. So for me, that'd be Mars. Yeah, I can be really arrogant. I'm sorry. I'm curious, how do clubs people manage honesty and not lie to themselves or others? Excellent question. Well, it goes back to that grounding in the self, the inner child that Jeannie brought out, really tracking their own internal experience and knowing that it's just that. I think the most important thing is for them to be honest with their emotions. That's the most important thing. To go back to the King of Hearts. Okay, so look at this. What does it take for a King of Clubs to track all the way back to the King of Hearts? Emotional maturity. The King of Spades. And if they add the King of Hearts to themselves, they end up at the just one suit, the King of Diamonds, which means they'll be in their integrity. If they add the King of Clubs to the King of Clubs, they come to the King of Spades. So that's an interesting thing. Remember how I've said the card that you add to your own card in order to get to the King of Spades is like this mirror, reflection, counterpart, sparring partner? What is it for the King of Clubs? It's the King of Clubs. That's got to mean something. That's a big deal. And it is self-honesty, Cosmic Sunflower. It's about self-honesty. Sitting Uranus, they want to fit in, find where they belong in a group of people, and they must find their uniqueness in order to shine, which is so the opposite of the 4 in the Enneagram initial thrust. I have to be unique. I'm the goth kid that dresses all in black but my deepest need is to belong. And you see how when the 4 finds their own belonging, they have the capacity to offer that to other people and make them feel very special because they've discovered their specialness. Leo, King of Clubs, can be insufferable, speaking from personal experience. Well, could we by any chance be talking to somebody who is friends with the Leo King? Are you Green Knight, Exalted Mercury? Did you change your thing? Or am I way off in that? Exalted Mercury, that is just such an excellent point about the uniqueness thing. They can be insufferable. Yes, they really can, because they're double King of Clubs. But they within themselves are a path to enlightenment all by themselves. For me, Uranus rules over society and mirroring. So tell us a little about these principles. How would they be reflected in the King of Clubs? That's deep. I'm going to see if Jeannie addresses this in her next comments and then circle back, Grumpy. To be fair, they go through a lot from a very young age and into their relationships, which tend to become controlling on the partner side. So they learn to be stronger than most. And so, and this may vary between the men and the women, King of Clubs. I did know a female King of Clubs who was the total opposite of arrogant. It was utter absolute dependence on everybody else for her thinking. And it was like, seriously? It was very odd. And I've noticed that with a lot of the kings, they can be like the flip total opposite. Like it's like 0 degrees. You're here to get this one. And so they can seem arrogant and self-centered, but it took a lot to get there. I think that's really true. I think we have to take into account that if the 2 of Clubs was their emotional launching pad, How much was fear a part of their childhood? How much argument? Um, how much aloneness because of that Ace of Spades under it? Yeah, that's interesting. Grumpy, circling back to you. They either let everyone walk over them or they take control. Yeah, so what's that axis that they're working there? Safety? I need to feel safe, and this is how I'm going to do this. The Four of Hearts and Venus. Okay, for me, Uranus rules over society and mirroring. So tell us a little bit about these principles and how would they okay, I get it, because it's sitting in Uranus. I did a deep dive into this and had one of those like higher vibrational total insights about the King of Clubs and Uranus. Let me see if I can find it. Oh, picking up your kids. Be right back. Okay. So we think of Uranus as community and connecting the humanity at large. And when we think of that kind of generosity that would be required to just be in that humanitarian energy, I think there has to be a fundamental security and groundedness within the self where you're not constantly trying to get it from somebody else. Going out on a limb here, but the King of Clubs assignment to integrate, to balance, to build the foundation for self, to master subjective knowledge, and to learn how to honor and respect everyone around you. Doesn't it sound like they're reaching for Uranus? Yes, okay, gonna bypass that childish humor and say, yes, they're reaching for the principles of connectedness, egalitarian. Okay, so here's this vision I got of the King of Clubs. Every once in a while, they give me something like, woo, woo. This was one of the coolest things. They showed me the King of Clubs all sitting at a round table with those really vertical back chairs. And they were all vertically aligned to creator source, to what Jesus says, if the Father testifies about me, to be able to say, I am completely and utterly known, and I answer only to that which knows me more completely than I know myself. I don't answer to you. You do not tell me who I am. I answer to one person only, him and me. And then they're aligned through the heart horizontally. And I think this is the model of Uranus because it represents like spiritual enlightenment, the Christ mind, but it's also community and egalitarian. And we can be connected when we have a very, you can have good boundaries, make good relationships, good fences make good neighbors. I know who I am. You can't have intimacy without that fundamental self-knowing and boundariedness. Okay, Exalted Mercury says, and please tell me what your name is, or something that I can call you other than Exalted Mercury 3. Okay, Two of Spades and Two of Clubs. They have a need to connect with others to find out who they are, but may not like the mirrors reflected back to them. I think that's an essential principle. And they do seem to have the backbone to accept or reject what they're saying. And they may not always be right with either one, but there's that constant interplay for the learning. For me, no female part of the royal suit resembles the male part of the royal suit. That's how it is with those born between the ace and the 10. Explain what you mean with that, Grumpy, because I can back up the idea that the queens and the kings and the jacks are all really different. No female part of the royal suit resembles the male part of the royal suit. That's how it. Yeah, sorry, I'm going to ask for a little bit more clarification because that's a juicy subject to get into, is the male and female. Okay, so female Queen of Clubs. I have seen their King of Clubs come out. They're very, okay, so everyone knows a Queen of Clubs and we love them for and they're nurturing and they're God, they're so sharp and quick, and it is very challenging to be them because they too have very hyped up sensitive nervous systems. But that king comes out, that absolute, and then there's that need to persuade. And when they can just kind of soften in that, and I see them developing in that softening up on, maybe I don't need to persuade so hard. I have a very strong Queen of Clubs aspect, and it's taken me decades to get there where like this book let them means so much to me. Okay, good. Grumpy is clarifying. I think Grumpy retyped his comment. For me, no female part of the royal suit resembles, okay, Exalted Mercury. Yes, they need to be, wait. No female part of the royal suit resembles the male part of the royal suit. That's how it is with those born between the ace and the 10. They're very distinct personalities, and like male Queen of Clubs and female King of Clubs, like there's all that too. They express them very differently, and a male King of Clubs and a male Queen of Clubs will be very different as well. Although they're going to have really strong similarities too. They're going to be kind of like this. Yes, they need to be strong and confident because no one is going to bring me down, but sometimes people telling them about themselves is not bringing them down, it's holding up a mirror. Yes, it is, very much. And they're strong enough to handle the mirror. Nisha is my name. I'm a 10 of diamonds. Welcome. You bring great wisdom, Nisha. And you know what? That's funny. Just when I was looking in my the control room of YouTube, and you see all the videos that you've done and have planned, I did one called The Karma of the 10 of Diamonds, and you might have to kind of work at finding that because it's a really long time ago, and maybe I should create a playlist for various cards or something. But anyway, that was a really good video. You might check that out. I did a deep dive. I've done several deep dives into the 10 of Diamonds. Who is in this diagonal axis? So this diagonal axis, just look at it, study it, think about it. Yeah, you're welcome. 3 of hearts, 7 of diamonds, 6 of hearts, 10 of diamonds, 9 of hearts, King of Clubs, Queen of Hearts. Not only is my life completely filled with these people, but my dog is the 3 of hearts. One of my very best friends is this, and his sister-in-law is the 6 of hearts. My daughter's planetary ruler is the 10 of diamonds, and I have lots of them in my life. 9 of hearts is my soul card. It's also my husband's planetary ruler. A ton of King of Clubs in my life, and then ex-husband was the Queen of Hearts. And one could call it the Pluto line. I may have misunderstood a woman whose dad was a Mason, and that's how they knew the cards. And I would get these tidbits from her. And she referred to the Pluto line. And I don't know if I misunderstood, but this was my interpretation. And therefore, I've been looking at it as every card. It's like if you are in the Pluto line, you are going to be super Pluto activated by every single one of those cards. It's like a family of cards. So, any questions? Let's talk a little bit, shift gears, and talk about the pure spread, which I always say we need to talk more about this. So, as someone pointed out, the King of Clubs inhabits, oh, Grumpy, I didn't even ask you, did we talk about that enough? The qualities of Uranus. Yeah, I covered my thoughts on that. Go ahead and tell me what you think about humanity at large and friendship, the friendship card. Yeah, and its karma card is the 2 of spades, right? Friendship with the world. Okay, so here we have the dynamic of the vertical Saturn and horizontal Jupiter. And I would put this in a sentence and say, what is the divine purpose of success and expansion? Trying to put Saturn and Jupiter together to sort of clarify. Oh my God. Okay, so Rumi says, did we not expand you? The Quran says, did we not expand you? I was like, it's kind of weird. It's not in my Bible, so I don't think about it. Expand you. And I was listening to Gene Decode. No, was it? It was somebody, some kind of guru type person. Oh, it might have been Daniel Brinkley being interviewed by Jeff Mara podcast. He's the guy that got struck by lightning multiple times and just had the most magnificent saved by the light near-death experience. Well, he's still alive, amazingly. And he was talking about knowledge being expansion. What is the divine purpose of expansion? Whoa! I think I've nailed something that's rather deep. What do you guys think? What is the divine purpose of expansion? So when you think about how you've grown or expanded throughout your lifetime, it's because of your learning. And it's yours and yours alone, what you know, what you have come to believe and understand, the realm of consciousness development. Okay, they're telling me, look at the Queen of Clubs. If we ascend, so this is a very interesting study. Try this. Ascend through your hand in the pure spread. So if you're the King of Clubs, look at the Queen of Clubs as your Mercury card. Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter going up. Saturn, 8 of Clubs. Uranus, Neptune. Pluto, 5 of Clubs. And think of it in terms of how you would show up in the world in terms of service. The Queen of Clubs is incredibly skillful. So this would be the realm of communication for them. And the one whose birthday is today is, she's a professor of communications. Isn't that cool? So it's like she's turned around. She's going in her ascending direction, and she is serving by teaching about communication. It's such a beautiful fit. And that Queen of Clubs informs that communication with emotional sensitivity, tenderness, compassion, intuition, the feminine side of knowledge. That must be my husband's phone. The feminine side of knowledge is intuition, not fact-based scientific observation type thing, but a sense, getting a sense. And when you think that every chakra is a way of knowing, that's another way to really expand and explore, know stuff through my base chakra. How does my crown know differently than heart knows? How does my belly know? That is a totally underrated realm of knowing, the belly. Just focus on it and ask it what it knows. And literally, it's your gut, it's your digestive system. There's a lot of knowing in there, right? Brain, gut brain connection, ways of knowing. So I don't know, just throwing that out there. So then the Venus for the King of Clubs, the way to relate and love and connect is not just of, I know stuff, I'm an authority. It's the Jack of Clubs. It's humor. I watch my friend who is the King of Clubs bring humor into the classroom and the conversations into very heavy subjects. And the Jack energy, all Jacks are very connecting, aren't they? They're not intimidating. They're sweet. They're fun. Oh, please remember to hit the like button. And I don't know, what else can we say about that Jack? I absolutely freaking love the Jack of Clubs. Yeah, okay, let's look at, does anybody have anything to say about that? Okay, Mars, 10 of Clubs. Interesting, right? Mars, 10 of Clubs, because the 10 of Clubs in the mundane spread is in the crown, ruled by Mars only. And here, this is where I'm looking, Mercury, Venus, Mars, the 10 of Clubs. I think it is kind of an indication to the King of Clubs that's saying, remember, you've been around the block, old soul. You came back as a King of Clubs because you know stuff, right? So be like a professor, compile all that knowledge and information, and when you're connecting with the world and you're doing stuff, you're in that Mars place. The 10 of Clubs is about a paradigm. Maybe it's to teach the paradigm through your doing rather than your saying. The 10 of Clubs is not Mercury. It's not, I'm going to say my paradigm. I'm going to do my paradigm. That's kind of interesting. I like that. Okay, the ascending. Oh, good. Grumpy. You guys, I think that the comments really slowed down all of a sudden, and there wasn't a new comment for quite a while. Wait, no. No, Grumpy did a message and then retracted. Okay, so the 9 of Clubs in Jupiter, that seems pretty obvious to me. 9 of Clubs. Okay, so continue to think in terms of service and showing up in the world in a realized way. And that just your beingness is really helping people. We didn't even talk about the Ace of Diamonds, which would be the ascending moon card. But the 9 of Clubs is totally open-minded, and he also is a storyteller. So maybe instead of that literal black and white facts and figures, the King of Clubs becomes lyrical and tells a story. 9 of Clubs people, I call them the whole story. They want to tell you where they were and what they were doing when they tell you anything. And then everyone's third cousin who's connected, plus their roommates and their histories. They don't want to miss anything, because it's all connected. It's a web. So I like that, actually, the web of knowledge. Everything's connected. The 9 of Clubs are like, I want it all. Grumpy, I said that Uranus is the god of gods. Ooh. From where creation begins, the divine spark. I didn't know that about Uranus. He is the father of Saturn, the god of time. Thus Saturn defeated his father and took his place. Oh. I heard a little bit about this story, but I forget it. It is said that Uranus is the god of gods. Well, that's interesting. That makes this card even more important, doesn't it? Hence the association with society. Every rebellion is seen in society. And the Saturn energy with that, yeah, that's interesting. Where Jupiter is expansion, I think Uranus is multidimensional expansion. Eternity, if you will. Jupiter is like, let's include everybody and build this big enterprise and make lots of money and bless everybody. Whereas Uranus is like, out there. And so maybe it represents that out there aspect of each of us. Can you find your multidimensionality, and how does that connect with your mastery of knowledge and your subjective experience? Have you connected with your multidimensional selves? I've done a little bit of that work. I was working with Rion and Sedona, Team Light, and he was really focused into that. And I just did a lot of meditations where I connected with my, for example, my 8th dimensional Anunnaki. I don't know if he's an Anunnaki, but he's a warrior and he loves to kick ass. And I literally have had to hold him back many times, but he's taken care of me too, like when I encounter reptiles and stuff. And one of them is a healer and one of them is a sage. It's just parts work, really. But it is a little more than that, right? Let's validate Uranus. It's not just Jupiter. Okay, yeah, it's from astrology and old myth. Yeah. So I see these extended themes in King of Clubs. I do too. I love that. I love this study. And the stories. Have you noticed how astrological, like the whole realm of myth and astrology, is so ancient and so universal? I mean, how do we know that the world regarded the age of Leo as being represented by a lion because of that constellation? And so they built their pyramids and their sphinxes to honor the great lion. I mean, is that like 50,000 years ago? It's like there's this universality and the myth and stuff. And it's like, I'm watching Battlestar Galactica right now, and the only map to Earth, they're looking for Earth. They're not from Earth, but they're humans. Their only map to Earth is these the constellations. And it's like if you're in the center and you can see all these patterns in the sky, you will be on Earth. I don't know. There's something really cool about all that. Okay, so I think we're getting there. We're almost done. I'm just going to do one more card because the Eight of Clubs is so freaking awesome. And I want to talk about Ace of Diamonds for a second too. Let's do that first. So the launch pad of the Ace of Diamonds in the Ascending Pure spread would be, I value myself. I know my own value. It's not just like I feel or I think. It's like, this is precious to me. And I have decided within my sovereign self, like, you can decide that here's your emotional truth, here's your mental truth, here's what I believe is true. But when you get to the diamond, there's a kind of, I'm the king, I'm my own sovereign, and I've just decided what's important to me. Like, that's the next level. Not just what I believe, but this is what's important to me. Therefore, I'm going to make all my decisions and shape everything around this. And I am precious and valuable. That's that Ace of Diamonds. Okay, so ascending Saturn would be, the interpretation of ascending Saturn would be like, how do I help others find their purpose? How am I conscripted into service in, and how is this my highest potential? I don't know. I'm still working with what is ascending Saturn. For me, it's the 10 of Spades. And the answer to that for me would be, if I really give myself permission, if I stop being like, if I'm a nice Saturn and I train myself in something. Yeah, look at your ascending Saturn and try to figure out what the classification is. What does it mean? Let's look at Jeannie's if she's still here. Well, she's picking up her kids. Grumpy, should we look at you? Jack of Hearts. Who wants to be a volunteer for us to look at ascending Saturn to see what it really means? Chris Belly. Hey, Christy Belly. Sphinx was Anubis, the dog star Sirius, not Lionhead. Oh. There's some alignment, though, with Leo in there somewhere. But thank you for correcting me. I really appreciate that. Yeah, the dog star. So was the Sphinx originally a large dog? Like, that would make more sense, right? I think someone needs to make that work of art. And why is it the dog star? Who decided that? I mean, see, even that ancient, I don't know. Grumpy, me, yes, me. Sharon, okay, we'll do both of you. So, Jack of Hearts, right, Grumpy? Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn. Your ascending Saturn would be the Three of Diamonds. The meaning of the Three of Diamonds is about versatility, flexibility. I think a kind of egalitarian, let's all put our cards on the table and just see what everyone has to say. Let's look at our options. So how does that relate to you? How do you, as a Jack of Hearts, feel about everything that I just said? How does that strike you? I think that Jack of Hearts have to work with a fixed nature. So I think that very thing represents a huge evolution of their spirit. Okay, mine is the 10 of Spades. Success, devotion. I'm devoted. But achieving a kind of success, if I would give myself permission to do that. Like, it's a really hard thing. Okay, 6 of Spades. Your ascending would be Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, the 4 of Hearts. Emotional security, emotional safety, knowing that you're safe, that you're going to be okay, that you're the one that's created that for yourself. Has it taken you your whole life to not only do that, but to recognize that it's your job and you have the ability to give yourself safety, a sense of security? And then could it be something that we offer other people once we've really mastered it? So Mercury, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn. Okay, the King of Clubs mundane ascending Saturn is the Queen of Spades. And the King of Clubs that I have seen are, one thing you can say about them, they are about growth and development, because I know a lot of King of Clubs archetypes that Queen of Spades self-mastery, taking self-responsibility, is a huge piece of their personal constellation. So makes sense with Saturn there. Yes, for me, it is restrictive to put all my cards on the table. It would be misunderstood. Oh, that's interesting. That openness is threatening to you somehow. But the Christ archetype, did he put his cards on the table? How could we work with that story to find a path for you? Okay, so Sharon, what do you think about that Six of Spades? The ascending Saturn would be Four of Hearts. It's something that you've recognized you have permission to create for yourself. Okay, so ascending Saturn for the King of Clubs in the pure spread is the Eight of Clubs. They have access to all knowledge, the Akashic Records. Eight of Clubs is Akashic Records. We think of it as fixed mind, and we've been throwing a lot of shit at the King of Clubs for being really stubborn and rigid and blah, blah, blah. Ego inhabited kind of arrogance. But what if they get to a place of knowing that is not egoic, but it's very strong? Can they give themselves permission to really know something? I really know this. And so I do know somebody that experienced a lot of abuse and repressed it. And their whole life is about saying, I believe myself. I can give myself permission to know this because my body knows this. And there's all this evidence, even though there's no evidence. So I think that's one interpretation. He not put all the cards because he was able to see the hearts of people. That's true. But he put his cards on the table with the disciples. But yes, there was I'll be misunderstood if I put too many cards on the table. I agree with you. So there's a balance maybe you're looking for there. Putting the cards on, because the disciples would be like, yeah, you're talking about all those, seeds falling on the hard ground and the thorny ground. And like, what's he talking about? And he's like, okay, here's the deal. And he was very literal and open with them. And he was also like, do you know who I am yet? Have you figured it out? He shared some really deep things. Yeah, so there has to be trust and maybe worthiness, or you discern that someone's ready for there to. But the cards on the table thing too. Think about him in service to letting other people let their cards be on the table, like tax collectors and prostitutes. And it was just like, hey, let's just be real here. And he was very cards on the table with the Pharisees. Oh my gosh, I think he had so much fun. He's like, you're rotting corpses. Can you imagine giving someone that insult? From the podium, just being like, calling your opponent, or saying them, the mainstream media, you're rotting corpses, you're dead, fetid, skin, worm-ridden sepulchers. And that's what he called the Pharisees. I think he was talking to the Khazarian mafia. If you read through it and you reinterpret it that way, it makes a lot more sense, like they were satanic. Okay, he wasn't just talking to some kind of off-balanced, he was talking to the devil himself and the Baal and like all that shit. That's what I think. So yeah. Okay. Oh, okay. He was accused of giving one teaching to the disciples and another to the crowd. Yeah. I heard my card is King of Clubs, but I know nothing of these teachings. Oh my gosh. Are you really? Is today your birthday, or May 19th? Every month in the year has a King of Clubs. So tell us what your birthday is. So, oh my gosh, I can't believe. I hope you don't feel insulted if you go back through. I try really hard to temper But it's like, I act like we're talking about someone who isn't in the room. It's stupid. It's terrible. I've shot myself in the foot several times, and I'm really sorry. But anyway, yeah, take it with a grain of salt. Oh, 617. So you're a Gemini, which means your planetary ruler is my guides want to tell you something. It's the Jack of Diamonds. So you're a more lighthearted, approachable. You must be really good at practical jokes and mischief and screwing with people a little bit and getting a lot of amusement out of that. Are you? Your ascending Mercury or planetary ruler would be the Two of Clubs, and you won't hear that from anybody else. But study the Two of Clubs and see what you learn. You can go on my website, which is listed in the description below. Oh, by the way, I now have Buy Me a Coffee, so you can donate to Buy Me a Coffee, and you would have to go up to one of the little links, like on my page, like it's links, and I have not figured out how to get it in the description yet, and I forgot to do that today. Sometimes I can figure out how to, write all the words that are in the description below. I have not been able to find that page. But my name and Buy Me a Coffee, you can probably find me if you want to donate. But anyway, the Gemini, where was I? A lot of communication there with Gemini. Yes. Yeah, lost my train of thought. Oh, you can go on my website, which is itiskismet.com, and type in your birthday. You can also just look for the Jack of Diamonds and the Two of Clubs, and you'll see descriptions there. But anyway, my son is the Jack of Diamonds, and I utterly adore him, so I'm a little prejudiced in favor of that card. But anyway, I would ask you, do you have this alchemy? This is going to sound really weird, and you'll be like, what is she even talking about? But last week we talked about the alchemy between the Two of Clubs and the Three of Clubs. Her karma cards are the Two of Spades and the Three of Spades. Is there something there? I know of people who are really good friends that are the Two of Spades and Three of Spades. There's something, I think, between the 2 and the 3. Maybe it's between every pair of numbers next to each other, but I notice it especially with these. And the alchemy would have something to do with, I just see raccoons giving and sharing food and having conversations. There's a lot of exchange going on. I don't know. Yeah, that's pretty esoteric. Playful goof with people, humor myself. Oh, I knew it. I just knew it. Oh, your guides were going to tell me something. They're like, the fundamental question for you to answer as the King of Clubs is, do you trust yourself? There's your little spiritual vitamin for the day. Okay, I'm going to close it out. I'm just over an hour. I love you guys so much. Look for my announcement. I will post as soon as Jeannie and I decide what time she can meet next Tuesday, a week from today. Show up for the 5 of Diamonds extravaganza, and we'll take a break from the the King of Diamonds and then the King of Spades. And those will be archetypes for the development of integrity and values and the development of being a master over your whole entire kingdom and becoming a god. Okay. Bye-bye to all. Thank you so much for everybody's interaction. I just loved it. Have a great day, everybody. Bye. Bye.